Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, wherever you are, to the final of GP Prague. In the booth, it's Riley Knight, and alongside him, it's my great pleasure to introduce Simon Goertzen, the Pro Tour champion. Simon, so good to have you here today. We've got on your screen now one of the finalists that's made it to the top table of GP Prague. Here's Nicolas Tholance. Mate, you've got the deck list in front of you, Simon. Tell us what we're looking at. On the other side, he will be facing Rodrigo Togores, another traditional deck we see in Legacy, maybe not so much as Miracles.
It's Storm, Ad Nauseam, Tendrils, and it's a list with a Sensei's Divining Top in the main deck and 2 copies of
Past in Flames. That's right, and we see Togores getting off on the right foot here with exactly that card you mentioned there. There is Sensei's Divining Top, the spicy little one of making its way into the Storm deck. Hotly debated, hotly contested as whether it's the correct thing to do or not. We'll get a great example here of what exactly it can do.
In a metagame where black is so prevalent, discard spells, especially Shardless Sultai with their Hymtotorics, I do like the inclusion of Sensei's Divining Top.
Well, Rodrigo obviously liking enough to pack it in his 75, 2 copies in fact across the main and the board, and already getting some value off of the trigger here, looking at the top 3 cards. Tholance on the other side, let's have a look at what he's working with. I can see a counterbalance, I can see a Sensei's Divining Top, I can see a Brainstorm. Any reason there not to cast the top on turn 1?
He is facing Storm and he knows that, so you have to be relatively careful. The explosiveness of the Storm deck is not something to be underestimated.
Yeah, with those smooth, nutty draws that the Togores Storm deck can get sometimes, turn 1, turn 2 is as early as it can go off here. So Tholance definitely taking a more conservative approach, you'd say.
Now we'll get the information we want. Ooh.
Interesting hand here, a bit heavy on lands there with a Brainstorm, a Sensei's Divining Top, and Force of Will. I think Tholance will be leaning on that Brainstorm to fix up this draw a little bit.
Yes, and generally you want to not cast it during your opponent's end step, because then you'll be forced to draw 1 card again.
Okay, and we'll see how Tholance wants to get this one done. But Togores with the Gitaxian Probe, and simply just saying go here. This Storm deck, a very confusing pile of cards to look at for those not intimately acquainted with the way that it works. But, I mean, the goal is very clear. It's attempting to cast at least 10 spells in a turn to get someone down from 20. And then Tendrils of Agony, which, of course, does drains 2 life off of the opponent with Storm as well. And with a deck full of rituals and cantrips, it's not such a hard thing to do. We might see Togores go off here, but Tholance will be doing everything he can to prevent that. Here is the Sensei's Divining Top.
It's actually interesting that Tholance has 3 main deck counter spells, actual literal counterspell.
Actual literal counterspell.
But that means his ways to interact for 1 mana are extremely limited. In fact, I don't see a single copy of Spell Pierce or something of the sorts.
No, and we don't always see them in the Miracles decks that are looking for, you know, more definite and harder answers here. The fact that Tholance is going to be drawing cards like Swords to Plowshares is a real liability for him this game.
So in this case, the main with the hand that Tholance had, the main reason to not cast the top was actually to have the Brainstorm available. Okay. In order to respond to a turn 1 duress or therapy.
Or a Cabal Therapy, yeah. Cabal Therapy can be backbreaking against these decks that you know, have a lot of redundancy, and snagging 2 key copies of a card can be really bad. But I know that Tholance will be happy that that Brainstorm can defend his Force of Will in particular. One of the hardest things for many new Legacy players, Simon Goertzen, is knowing exactly what in the Storm deck is important to counter. Do you counter the rituals? Do you counter the discard? What do you counter? In many cases, you know, there are cards with pain, targets pain on their heads, Ad Nauseam, Past in Flames, that sort of stuff. But often it'll be a Dark Ritual where you'll see the.
But Infernal Tutor also, of course, Togores cannot let an Infernal Tutor get countered after he's discarded his hand to Lion's Eye Diamond, for example.
Legacy players not afforded the luxury of playing Demonic Tutor. And so between LED and Infernal Tutor, they kind of build their own. Tholance now. He's got a nice full grip. We'll see how he wants to utilize it. It's going to be a Scalding Tarn.
And from now on, he will be representing counter magic with the counterspell costing double blue, and Force of Will, of course, costing a blue card most of the time.
Togores already has had a look at the grip of Tholance, but there are a few new draw steps that he's not going to know about just yet.
And he's also facing a top, so he now can never be certain.
Never be certain, mate. Just like Mad Eye Moody, got to have constant vigilance. So Tholance here with this Ponder after a bit of a shuffle. So obviously not a fan of the cards he saw on top with that with the Sensei's Divining top. Man, that card should be named something else. Sensei's Divining Pencil would have been better. Putting cards on top with the top. Oh, it never ends. So to Togores now. We've got tops all over the place.
There is an Infernal Tutor floating on top of Togores' library. Of course, the utility of top being a bit limited in a deck that doesn't have as many shuffle effects.
Yeah, certainly Togores not going to be able to cash in the value of Sensei's Divining Top in the same way that so many other decks can. As we see Gitaxian Probe, Infernal Tutor, what looks like a Cabal Ritual on the top. Oh, look at this. Here is a Past in Flames, one of the two copies that Togores is playing.
And Togores is also getting close to Threshold with 5 cards in his graveyard.
And 6 cards now with this Gitaxian Probe. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And the information too. Is this a Snapcaster Mage?
A Snapcaster Mage.
So actually, if there's not a counterspell on top of Tholance's library, there is not much interaction here in game 1 for the French player.
No, Tholance will be looking for a little bit more than that Force of Will. It's going to be as simple as a Cabal Therapy to clear the way. Dark Ritual, says Togores. Zimon, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Whenever you think that the Force of Will should be snapped off, you let us know.
Should I give a sign, some code word?
Yeah.
We
need a radio like sound effect, something like that.
The problem is if you force Dark Ritual here, what's your long-term game plan? You haven't forced the Storm player to extend significant resources.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Of course, I mean it's a very different story if you've got some kind of pressure to back that up with. All you need to do is stifle their game plan until you can put a clock on them. But in this case, Tholance, yeah, empty board, just got the top of your screen there.
7 cards in the graveyard, so that means Threshold for potential Cabal Ritual.
So Cabal Therapy here, 2 black floating. You can see the black mana represented by that zombie token. And 4 spells cast so far this turn. Togores is keeping careful count of exactly what goes on. And here is the Force of Will hitting the bin thanks to that therapy. It's had to lie down on the couch and talked about its problems and it's found itself in the graveyard. Here's Dark Ritual number 2. So Togores now with 4 black mana.
Yeah, it seems that he's just going for it.
So this is the Storm player as they go off. Down to up to 6 spells. And up to 7 mana. And you can see that rather obviously untapped Volcanic Island there, ready to power out a Past in Flames or something similar.
Yes, and that's the the whole clue. If you
Oh, and look at this off the top.
Yeah, this was prepared, of course.
There we go. Look at that, a Force of Will. That's going to really put a.
But I have a feeling Togores has something prepared as well.
Let's have a look. Togores also flips his top. And it's a Past in Flames. There you go, just like that. So now we do see both of these players, wow, flipping the tops to find the cards they thought they were going to get there with. Tholance has got his head in his hands. He can't believe it. Brainstorm into Force of Will blue card. And it isn't. It's top Brainstorm. And that'll do it. There you go. Past in Flames enough to get Togores over the line in game number 1. Tholance, after playing very defensively, Simon Kurtzen, didn't have the way of anything in pressure.
It's very difficult for him in game 1. He has a very limited amount of ways to interact with the Storm combo. Togores knew about his hand, had one discard spell, and is now was then able to basically present too many questions.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we saw the resiliency of the Storm deck fighting through two forces of will there, and Past in Flames. I mean, for those who may not understand exactly how that was going to turn out, essentially Togores was going to cast everything in his graveyard. The Storm count was already massive. All he needed to really resolve was that Infernal Tutor to find the final Tendrils of Agony.
He had a few black mana floating, and there was enough to start the chain all over again.
Yeah,
so you start flashing back Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and then you can cast Infernal Tutor again, get Tendrils of Agony, and win with a massive Tendrils.
Absolutely. So we saw that go off pretty much without a hitch for Togores there. I mean, the Storm player always has to expect some disruption. Decks like this, Zimon, are the reason that Force of Will is so prominent.
Yes, or so needed also.
Yeah.
The Fluster Storms from the sideboard is what Nicolas now needs. There's some other cards.
Yeah, let's talk about the sideboards here. So you've got Tholance's sideboard in front of you. You've already talked about the Fluster Storms. Are you interested in something like a Surgical Extraction or a Snapcaster Mage?
Snapcaster Mage, if I bring in 3 Fluster Storms, absolutely. Also keep in mind that Swords to Plowshares and Terminus are almost dead, except for the one Miser's Xantid Swarm.
Yeah, Xantid Swarm acting as a repeatable silence effect for Togores there, but I mean, you've got to be certain Nicolas Tholance will be happy to board out all of that creature removal.
Yes, and sometimes you have a card that can double as a way to deal with the Xantid Swarm. If I know the deck list and I know there is one Swarm coming, I think I just accept the fact that my opponent might steal a game with it, but you can't really keep in otherwise dead cards.
You can't weaken your deck overall to play around one card out of the 75 you might be seeing. So, yeah, apart from that, though, I mean, Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, I mean, this is a black deck with a little bit of blue. It's not enough to bring in these blasts, right?
No. Togores is the one who is going to bring in things. He has 4 Abrupt Decay in the sideboard.
Yep.
So that's
exactly
a nice
for
way
the situation, right?
A nice way to break up the counterbalance lock, or probably the only most reliable way to do it. There is also Empty the Warrens. What do we think about this? Do you maybe exploit the fact that your opponent usually wants to counter the key card, but if you just run out an empty, like we said, it's really difficult for Nicolas to keep in Terminus.
Yeah, the problem with the Empty of the Warrens, the dilemma that puts your opponent in is that, yeah, do they keep in this Terminus? Because sometimes on turn 2, the Storm deck can just go Ritual Warrens, empty the Warrens, and all of a sudden, you know, they're dealing with, you know, maybe it's only 6 or 8 Goblin tokens, but that can often be enough.
Yeah, and actually the Miracles deck is, after boarding, not necessarily set up to deal with that quickly enough.
Not at all.
2 more cards in Rodrigo's sideboard are Crozen Grip and Flusterstone.
Yeah.
So I think he really came prepared. He can even kill Sensei's Divining Top, something not many people at this tournament could. He can Flusterstorm back. So Flusterstorm, the only real counter magic that deals with Flusterstorm efficiently.
Yeah, we don't see Mindbreak traps floating around in Legacy too much. A vintage staple, obviously, but here in Legacy, not so much. Crozen Grip, I mean, it's a very powerful card. There's no doubting that. It takes care of Sensei's Divining Top. It takes care of Counterbalance, no way, no how. Costs 3 mana, Zimon.
I know. There's a few things going on here. A, the game is going to go longer after sideboarding.
Yeah.
And B, Rodrigo will therefore draw more lands and be less reliant on some of his explosive draws. Also with more counter magic, with more permission, in Nicolas' deck after sideboarding, he can't really go for these all-in turn 1, turn 2 plays, except for the Empty the Warrens, for example, that we mentioned.
Tholance has kept in at least one Terminus. I can see a few Brainstorms and a Force of Will. I'm interested to see if he's happy with that hand. That's a white card in the middle. I can't imagine that's a Swords to Plowshares.
I think if you keep in a white card or multiple white cards, it's going to be Terminus.
Yeah, absolutely. Togores, slow start for him with a Polluted Delta.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. The strategy of Togores naturally becomes much slower, but at the same time, he's hoping to be able to answer what the Miracles deck does.
Triple Brainstorm over a Snapcaster Mage and Force of Will here. As Togores writes down the contents of Tholance's hand, it looks suspiciously like Tholance has chosen to draw here, Simon. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, it's very interesting. He knows what's he knows how Togores' sideboard plan looks like, and the Abrupt Decay package and all the other answers that Togores brings in, and the fact that we will be looking at a longer game, means that maybe being on the draw is actually better for him as the control player.
Something that certainly isn't better for him, Simon. I'm not sure if the audience can hear it in our microphones, but a huge storm has actually just erupted over the top of the building. An actual literal thunderstorm is going on right now as we speak, and this is a grim omen for the Miracles player.
Yes, let's hope for the best. Let's hope that the sun comes out again. Well,
we'll see how things go. I guess it would be a bit of a miracle if the storm were to just break up. Rich Hagen he is rubbing his hands in his glee. He's loving every minute of it. So here we are now. Togores, just as Simon said, very slow start here. Taking his time, not trying to just jam the combo as soon as he can.
Yes, and at the same time, you wouldn't expect the Storm deck to spend too much mana in the early turns, unless they have a hand with Ponders and maybe discard spells. But even those, you kind of want to delay until you're absolutely certain what you need.
What do you think of this here, the deployment of a Snapcaster Mage to flash back a Brainstorm?
I like it because it does break the symmetry a little bit.
Okay.
At some point, the Miracles player will draw more reactive cards, and the Storm player will continue shaping the perfect hand of Storm combo plus Abrupt Decays, Fluster Storms, and so on. So putting just a tiny bit of pressure on him means that you will get him to react maybe a bit earlier than he would like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much of a clock, but it's still something here. As two cards go back on top, we see Predict, one of the cards that Tholance has drawn. And it's a Flooded Strand in now with a Snapcaster Mage. In comes the Tiago Chan. Snip Snap gets in there for 2. And now Togores draws. He finds an Infernal Tutor.
Also not one of these cards you want to cast early often, but in this scenario actually you can double up on something if you believe you will be needing, for example, another copy of Abrupt Decay.
Togores happy to just play the draw go game here.
Yeah, and
Tholance is doing a little bit more than that. Oh, what a lucky name, Tundra. How do you do it?
The two predicts make it so much more comfortable to actually go for a long game.
Yeah.
Literal card advantage, not just the whole brainstorming, pondering.
And this is what we see in so many legacy decks, Simon. Decks that they don't get actual card advantage. It's virtual card advantage through the quality, through filtering, Brainstorm, Ponder, Sensei's Divining Top. But, I mean, yeah, predicts a straight-up divination.
The virtual card advantage is better in a deck like Grixis Delver, which can operate and will operate on 2 lands, and which trades a lot more 1-for-1. But the Miracles deck needs lands and spells, so also needs to leave open mana, which is very expensive.
It's closer to the end of the spectrum towards control, really.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, in Legacy, it is a control deck, I would say, but it doesn't fit in that. I mean, there's still an axis it's got to fight on that doesn't make it one of these pure sort of draw-go control decks that we're used to.
Exactly, but still, it should be in favor of the game going long. And I also like that Tholance is actually not allowing his opponent to Abrupt Decay anything. He's just also sculpting and attacking for 2 in the process.
In comes the Snapcaster Mage. That's 4 damage done by Tiago so far. Togores draws. He's found a Misty Rainforest.
And that might actually have been a little bit of a top deck if he didn't draw a land, or if he stops drawing lands. Then his whole plan also kind of crumbles.
And it's Entreat the Angels here. So look at this. Tholance really getting on the front foot. Simon, what are your thoughts here, mate?
I think this is absolutely correct.
Yeah, really good stuff here from Tholance. I'm very impressed.
If this resolves, you suddenly beat the Storm player who was hoping for a long game, having in hand all the answers to potential counterbalances.
But Togores without a Flusterstorm, which would have gotten him out of this little pickle here. He's got lethal, facing lethal on board. I know one of the cards in his hand is Abrupt Decay.
He actually has 2 of them.
Oh,
so clearly not letting this lethal attack resolve, but weakening his position quite a bit.
Absolutely. The 2 fetch lands hit the bin. That's going to take 2 more life, which is actually increasingly relevant here. And you would imagine 2 Angels going to hit the bin here after that Entreat. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of that. I love that aggressive setup of the Entreat, the Angels. So often in Miracles, we will see a really, really late Entreat by the time, it's the Aetherling, I guess, for people who play Standard a couple of, it's the Sphinx of the Final Word. You deploy it when you know the game is over. You just need a way to finish. But here, I mean, this is really, really good stuff.
Yeah, it's basically racing the combo deck.
So 2 Abrupt Decays take care of 2 Angels, but Togores has now has had his life total halved.
And facing lethal.
Yeah.
Despite double removal.
Sensei's Divining top the play. And we're going to see Tholance further extend with a Ponder. Okay, I thought we might have seen Counterbalance there. Although now I think Counterbalance is not a bad way to go at all.
Exactly, because if Togores has to Abrupt Decay or Crozen Grip it, he is very unlikely to also go for the combo. You know that half of his hands have been answers at this point.
Sensei's Divining top. Number 2, is it?
I hope you have a big umbrella for both of us, Riley.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm really curious if our viewers at home can hear the rain pummeling against the roof here. But the storm is very real. Not so much on this battlefield here, however, as Tholance with his Miracles list seems to be putting Togores really getting him on the ropes.
Now the counterbalance is also on the battlefield. So even if Togores has an answer for it, it's not really what he wants to do. Something I wanted to mention is if you expect Crozen Grip, which maybe Tholance doesn't respect in this particular matchup, but if you expect it, you can float a 3 on top of your library, and even split second doesn't work because counterbalance will still be able to counter.
I see. Okay, that's an important point to note. Tholance lets the Cabal Therapy resolve.
Yes, because he knows what's on top of his library and prefers to maybe he doesn't have a 1.
You can put a Sensei's Divining top on top.
But then he doesn't have the counter power of counterbalance anymore, which is actually... okay, yes.
With 2 of those Sensei's Divining tops, I think that's a very curious way there.
Yeah, there's a second top. I was confused there.
Yeah, with 2 tops, I'd put the top on top to counter that. That.
Also, having a 1 is certainly valuable.
Yeah, really good against Storm. Here's LED. Tholance has just 1 spin of the top here. He does know the top card of his library. Not a single 5 in his deck, so he's not going to be able to counter an Ad Nauseam.
He has forces.
Apart from the Forces of Will. You don't think of that as a 5-drop, do you? Togores now, and we'll look at this. This is another grim omen here for Tholance, the fact that the Storm counter has been brought out. Here's Cabal Ritual with Threshold, 5 mana. So 5 black floating. Maybe Togores, he realizes he doesn't have an answer to this board and he needs to just try to go off. I mean,
absolutely, yes.
This is the position that many Storm players are put in. Even if they don't have the perfect hand, they haven't sculpted and put together the cards they really need. They, in some cases, just sort of have to go for it. Throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
It's funny how Togores had to cast double Abrupt Decay to keep his life total high.
Yeah.
And then he didn't have another decay or the mana for the counterbalance. But had he only killed 1 angel, he would go down to 2. But have an Abrupt Decay left for a potential counterbalance.
Okay, so Tholance is going to cast Force of Will here, targeting the Cabal Ritual. And it looks like that's going to be it here for Togores. A 1 on top to counter any further rituals or any other action here. Really curious to know why that didn't happen earlier.
Togores looking for a way to maybe get something done here. His only hope is to resolve a Dark Ritual through a counterbalance, though.
If Togores flip the top, draws the force, and then if Tholance flips the top, draws the force, and then Tholance has some way to protect the Cabal Therapy, then Tholance loses 2 forces of will.
But how do you protect the
Flusterstorm?
But not against
not against double force.
No, not against a counterbalance trigger.
No, that's true.
You can't really. There's very little effects.
I'm trying to find a way that a reason for why Tholance didn't counter that Cabal Ritual or Cabal Therapy. But in any case, this is where we are now.
My explanation is that he wanted Togores to commit more. To just
see the way was clear.
Go for it. Think he was in a better spot.
Togores cast the Dark Ritual rather hopefully, rather optimistically, Simon Gertzen, into that counterbalance. And and Tholance not missing a trick this time. Away they go. It's game number 3. We didn't see any of these big haymakers this time, Simon. Just a nice early aggressive posture from the Miracles player.
Yeah, it felt almost like a game 1. Except that the game plan of the Miracles deck was much more aggressive.
Yeah, and I really like that. I think both you and I are in agreement that that is the way to go in a situation like this. But Tholance almost certainly brought in the 3 Flusterstorms. Didn't need them. Didn't need them, mate.
This is just really interesting because both players know what the plan of the other is, and when you see 4 Abrupt Decay and the Swarm and potentially Crows and Grips and Flusterstorm, you know that dragging out the game is going to be difficult. Your counterbalances are basically dealt with through sideboarding.
The fact of the matter is this, Simon. If the Storm deck could pick 7 cards out of its library to start with, or at any point in the game, it would win on the spot. On the spot. There is a configuration of 7 cards that would beat more or less any reasonable game state, board state, whatever else. So I think the point you're making here is generally Miracles is happy for the game to go along. They know they've got the inevitability. They know they can win eventually, even if it's something silly like a Jace Ultimate. But in this situation here, it's funny to think that Storm in some ways has a better late game than Miracles.
Yeah, it's
not exactly like that, but we're coming close to it.
Exactly, and that changes the dynamic of the matchup, which suddenly puts pressure on Miracles to be faster. But Togores is paying a price for it, and the price is that his draws are diluted. So actually, the 7 combo starting hand, is much less likely.
Much less likely, and I think that's a great point to keep in mind. The fact here that we talk about all these fantastic cards, so good against Miracles. 4 copies of Abrupt Decay, 2 Crows and Grip, maybe 2 Flusterstorms to defend against opposing Flusterstorms. That's 8 cards, mate. 9 cards if it's the Xantid Swarm. You can't take 9 cards out of a Storm deck and expect it to function the way that it did before.
Yes.
What do you take out? Preordain?
Yes, sure. The problem is you need to keep in some amount of Gitaxian Probes and discard, because otherwise you would solve one problem but
and create another one.
Create another. You can't be too greedy with taking out lands.
No, I mean only 16 in the deck.
Yeah, and you absolutely need your mana development also.
15, I should say.
So, I think you start with some of the lesser needed one-offs. I don't think you need Senseless Divining Top.
No.
I don't think you need necessarily Rain of Filth. I don't think you need 2 Passive Flames.
I would argue in favor of Rain of Filth, given the fact that in that situation, a Rain of Filth would have added 5 mana.
Sure, but then you have to cut down on Dark Ritual, or even maybe more of the blue search spells.
Okay, something like 2 Past in Flames that could be shaved down.
You don't need 2 of them. Yeah. I would always keep in 1.
Okay,
it's such a vital part of the normal combo that you are pursuing. Also, it's just a super powerful card if the game goes longer.
Well, if you didn't hear the rain before, you're certainly going to start hearing the thunder, both inside and outside the arena, because the storm that's lashing on our rooftops is also finding its way to the feature match area. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank you once again for choosing to spend your weekend with us this week. It's been a fantastic event. Covering Eternal weekends is always such a joy for me personally, and I know many thousands of people around the world have tuned in, watching us on Twitch, maybe watching the replay on YouTube, and thanks so much again for your patronage, for your viewership. It's a great pleasure and a privilege for us to bring you live coverage of these events from Europe. Such a great event we've had, Simon, and a good way to finish it here, but with these two guys going down to game number 3.
Up until now, Prague has shown itself from its most beautiful side. Now we do get a bit of rain, but it's the final, so we are in safety for now.
Highly appropriate, I would think. A dramatic end to a weekend that's been well, look, we've had ups and downs. There's been smiles and frowns. There's been laughter. There's been tears. We've had a bit of everything here at Prague this weekend. Nicolas Tholance, double flusterstorm in his opening hand, but not enough to support those leading actors. So gets shipped away. He's going to try for 6. Togores in the same position, Simon.
Interesting, yes. It's and that reminds me of the decision of Tholance to draw first. What did Togores decide?
It looks like he's on a mulligan as well.
No, but
did he decide to play or draw? Okay.
What do you do if your opponent thinks?
No, if you want to play first, you play first. I think that's how it goes.
Yes, but the thing is, if my opponent does this on game 2, I might reconsider my position on the matter.
All right. I mean, you're better at this game than I am, so I should probably listen to you.
True.
True. That's very true. Yeah, no, I'm glad we finally got that out in the open. But I think here Togores is more heavily punished by a mulligan. Definitely fair to say that. The Storm deck doesn't like to mulligan.
It's absolutely correct. On the other hand, with both players playing a game that's set up to be more turns than the Storm deck usually plays, it's certainly not a big issue to go down to 6.
Well, let's see if these guys can find 6 that they prefer. Togores rather flashily drawing his 6 cards as Tholance, slow and steady, piles them into his hand. He has brought in Pyroblast, Simon.
I didn't expect that. There's blue cards you can target, but
what are you countering with it?
Flusterstorm, your Flusterstorm, like you can't answer any of the sideboard cards basically.
No. And what are you countering with it? A Brainstorm?
You almost have to because there's no other targets. You can of course counter Gitaxian Probe as well, but
so it looks like the players are scrying here. Tholance puts his on the bottom. Togores now scrying, and he puts his on the bottom too. So Tholance is going to go first.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting. Look at that smug look in your eyes, a little twinkle there in Simon Gertsen's eyes. Made me look like a fool, not for the first time, not for the last. Scalding Tarn now, kicking things off for Tholance. Togores with a Misty Rainforest. Back to Tholance now. Both players happy to play draw go at this stage. Let's have a look at the hand of Togores here. A couple of lands I can see in there. There's an Underground Sea, and here is Sensei's Divining Top. Tholance with nothing to say about that. So the top wasn't taken out, despite being perhaps one of the cards that you would think would immediately be substituted for something like a
Yes,
decay.
because, I mean, the cards on top of the library are valuable, but you just don't have so much space. This is the main question. I see a lot of cards I would like to bring in, but it's just a bit surprising to me how you fit in that many cards.
Yeah, we saw now Tholance just drew an Abrupt Decay. Oh, sorry, not an Abrupt Decay. I should say a Surgical Extraction. This is a card, a much maligned card by many huge names in Magic, but I think it has a role to play in this matchup.
Absolutely, and it can actually do many different things. Also, you can sometimes even disrupt the combo, but with the matchup which is so reliant on very few cards being relevant, you might be able to take all Abrupt Decays from Togores or all Cabal Therapies.
This is what I was thinking. I don't think I mean, it'd be I guess snagging a Dark Ritual isn't the worst thing in the world, but getting rid of something like that, Cabal Therapy was really what stuck in my mind there.
We haven't seen many duresses.
No.
It's entirely possible that Togores went down on duress because he kind of wants to hit all the forces, and the rest he doesn't care too much about.
So Snapcaster Mage amongst the 3 cards that Tholance is considering drawing. That's the second card from the top. But a Flusterstorm. Oh, buddy, here we go.
No, I was a bit concerned. You can easily lose the game because you draw all these fancy sideboard cards, and then you're sitting there with Pyroblast and Surgical Extraction, and your opponent just goes empty the warrants and
getcha.
You don't have anything. But we see a mirror of game 2, at least from the speed at which things are going.
Ponder the draw now for Tholance. He's got a Snapcaster Mage on top. 2 other cards we're not sure about. There's the Snip Snap. And it looks like Another blue card at least. Oh, Tholance happy to keep them on top, and he draws a Brainstorm. Flooded Strand again.
Yeah, perfect mana development.
Yeah,
He
going
has
really well here.
high amount of fetch lands.
Really hitting his stride, and I like the contents of his hand. I feel like he's pretty much prepared for whatever Togores is going to throw it in here. Double Force, Brainstorm, Surgical Extraction.
I would think you almost Pyroblast the first blue spell that Togores plays.
Triple Force of Will here. Going to go down. Going to shave a couple of them, stick them back on top of the library. They're going to get fetched away.
Oh, we'll see. He might also just decide to draw one again.
Nope. Okay. So Tholance deciding he doesn't need those Forces of Will. I think it was 2. It might just have been 1. And here's a Tundra.
The more I'm looking at this matchup with the way both players sideboard, the more I think that Jace could actually be a very viable win condition.
Do you think so?
Yes, just stick a Jace and Togores has to go for it.
Yeah.
But your whole deck is answers. And there's actually not much you can do about it.
No, you just sit there and do nothing. Wow, we're drawing a Force of Will off the top anyway. So it looks like Tholance has three copies of Force in his hand, at least 2.
And he's once again preparing the Ambush Viper, flashback a Brainstorm, and putting a clock on Togores.
Yeah.
Togores does never want to spend an Abrupt Decay on Snapcaster Mage, which is obvious. But also Togores, his draw steps do him less of a favor than Tholance.
Yeah.
Because Tholance deck is more streamlined. Togores deck is a hybrid between I'll answer your lock pieces and I'll combo off.
Yeah.
So he can't rely on his draw steps naturally
to get him where he needs to be.
Even with the top, it's not so easy.
Abrupt Decay, one of the cards that Togores is looking at here with his Sensei's Divining Top.
Is the first card in his hand a Crozen Grip?
Didn't get a good look at that one as he begins his turn.
It looks like rather green to me, so...
Here is Snapcaster Mage, and we've got a Brainstorm now.
One of my favorite plays back in Standard was to cast a turn 2 Snapcaster Mage for no value.
Yeah.
The literal Ambush Viper. But
yeah, it would be.
When you were playing an aggro deck, getting in those 2, 4, 6 damage was easily worth the card you weren't flashing back.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw that last game with Snapcaster doing at least, I think it was 6, maybe 8. And Tholance putting a little bit of a clock. I mean, this is classic stuff from these 2-drop 2 ones. Bob Ma, he gets in there. He gets in there for 2 every turn while drawing your cards, and you've got to force your opponent to answer it.
Also, of course, playing at the end of the Storm player's turn gives you the confidence that nothing scary is going to happen. There is, in theory, there's Ad Nauseam, but that's a very clunky card to resolve.
And playing that in your own end step as well? Bleh, come on. Bleh. No thanks.
You just wouldn't do it on
principle, thing, mate. On principle. So Nicolas Tholance, he's got 2 Flusterstorms. He's got a Force of Will. He's got Brainstorm. He's got another Snapcaster Mage. He's sitting pretty, ladies and gentlemen. And here is Ari B. He's brought in both blasts, mate. Togores down to 17 here. What is he taking out? I can't imagine. I mean, obviously 4 Swords to Plowshares, maybe some number of Jace.
Yes, Jace. He might also have taken out the Mentors completely.
That'd be a very interesting way to play it. I'd be surprised.
He doesn't want. He wants his opponent to basically choke on his own Abrupt Decays. look at how he's playing this game. He's saying, I know you're holding Abrupt Decay.
Yeah.
Do you want to Abrupt Decay my Snapcaster Mage or not?
Togores does have a Crozen Grip in hand here.
Yeah, it's the only green card in his list, I believe.
Well spotted, Zimon.
Thank you.
No, not at all. Here's a Volcanic Island as well.
Well spotted.
Thank you, mate. I can spot that. I'm colorblind. I can't spot Crozen Grips. It's all just grey to me, mate. Volcanic Islands, on the other hand. Ooh, mate, those contours? Hey, buddy.
So, unfortunately, we don't know exactly how Togores' hand is shaping up, but it's funny how you can be quite upset about the sideboard cards you're drawing.
And when your opponent's playing so candidly as well, not giving you targets for them. I mean, you don't just take out countertop in the face of such hateful removal.
Not against. I don't think you do it against Storm because it's too potent. However, after seeing the lists and seeing what Togores' game plan was in game 2, you could argue for it.
Togores here fetching now with polluted Delta.
I think that both of these players are on a pretty high layer, a pretty high level when it comes to like outguessing each other. So no, it's there's certainly a high Yomi layer here at work, but I honestly don't know on which level they are.
Let's have another look at the top 3 cards here. Cabal Ritual. Looks like Tendrils is the second card there.
Natural Tendrils.
Natural Tendrils, mate. Delicious. Togores is going to draw, and it's Misty Rainforest. Does have the option to shuffle away that Tendril should he want to. Says go. Doesn't even cast the Gitaxian Probe.
No, he
knows what's up.
He basically knows what his opponent is sitting on.
Yeah.
Also, he has he wants this on the turn when he needs the information the most.
Another Brainstorm from Tholance here. Another opportunity. I think this is what? This is Brainstorm number 3.
Yes, with the first one being cast twice.
And Tholance is going to now shuffle away some of those cards that were put back, cracking that Flooded Strand.
We're basically watching a control mirror.
It's funny like that, isn't it? Very narrow cards, but still, yeah. And in the control mirror, I mean, he who has the 2-1 is going to get there.
The problem for Togores is, of course, that he doesn't really have the control cards.
No.
He
can answer the...
He's pretending to be a control deck, but...
I mean, he can answer the things that Tholance is going to do, but Tholance's answers basically answer the whole deck.
Especially if you give a Miracles deck this much time to shape the perfect hand.
I mean, we were talking about Togores wanting the game to go long, the Storm player wanting to be able to sculpt a hand together, but, you know, I come back to the point you made during sideboarding, Simon. Storm players can't sideboard too much, or they hamstring themselves with a diluted deck.
Yes, and this is something that is relevant in all Eternal formats. I know it also from Vintage. You kind of want to get into a matchup. You want to prolong a matchup where the utility of your opponent's draw steps is less than yours. And Togores is drawing more dead cards than Tholance simply because Tholance is not giving him targets for his Abrupt Decay.
I mean, in fairness, he hasn't drawn any as well, but he's making sure of that thanks to those Brainstorms.
Oh, he's manipulating his draws basically constantly. Is he? I think he's about to discard. We could see a discard Force of Will. Not really, but
a Pyroblast.
where the hand is so stacked.
Yeah. So Pyroblast hits the bin here. I can see Togores. He's got a Gitaxian Probe. And we're going to see that red blasted. So Simon on the money, as usual. Tholance firing off that blast as soon as he saw a blue spell. Togores here now with Gitaxian Probe number 2. He's not on 111 life. He's on 9. Very close.
I think if I'm Tholance, I don't really mind too much if my opponent sees this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for the sheer intimidation factor, if nothing else. Read him and weep.
If you counter the probe, what is your opponent going to think you're on?
Yeah. And hey, the more spells that get cast, the better the Flusterstorm becomes.
The better the Tendrils becomes.
Nah, mate, come on. Team Flusterstorm all the way. Here we go. Tholance here. Can hardcast a Force of Will, should he so desire.
He needs to protect his Flusterstorms from Cabal Therapy.
Yeah.
That's his main objective.
Well, he's going to let Togores have a look at it, and Togores is not going to be happy with what he sees. Double Force, double Flusterstorm, Surgical Extraction, and Snapcaster Mage.
So Tholance was probably debating whether to flash back one of the red spells.
Yeah, right.
To counter the probe again.
Yeah, one of the blasts there. But Togores has got to fight through 3 Flusterstorms here if he wants to get anywhere. The natural Tendrils drawn here.
And a Storm count at 3, which is not relevant right now, but it could become relevant.
Brainstorm.
Togores is not holding a Flusterstorm, is this correct?
I haven't seen one.
Because Flusterstorm would be the card he needs to to even dream about fighting the counter war.
Ponder.
Or winning the counter war.
Gitaxian Probe. Tendrils of Agony.
Yeah, and a lot of black cards, so
Black cards.
so no Flusterstorm.
No. Dark Ritual's just been put back on top, though. I'm going to fetch them away. Anybody got time for that? Says Togores. As he's down to 8. Fetches out an island. He'll be running out of fetchable land soon. He's got 2 underground seas, 1 bayou, 1 Volk, 1 Trop, 1 island, 1 swamp.
6 lands are in play.
Yeah.
And he has 7, correct?
So
seven mana producing lands.
Yeah, so just that that fetch is going to be able to get the one last land there. Tropical Island, the only land that Togores hasn't yet found. And here's a Ponder.
Against that much permission, you can't really hope to resolve a card like Infernal Tutor, like a expensive sorcery or an Ad Nauseam. You need to somehow just surprise your opponent with the Tendrils, where he's sitting on all these forces, but has somehow used up his Flusterstorms. But against an opponent with double Flusterstorm and Snapcaster Mage, that seems really, really difficult.
Gitaxian Probe again. Togores down to 6 here.
Togores is paying life, so
yeah.
He is aiming for a game that's not going to go much longer.
No, and I think he's sort of pushing his options to the limit here. He's really going to have to find something special. Here's a Dark Ritual. Looks like he's going for it.
There is a Snapcaster Mage in Tholance's hand, so he has only one more turn if he decides to wait.
So, Flusterstorm, Snapcaster Flusterstorm, Force of Will is what he has to beat.
And then he might have another turn. We do have to take into account that with Pass in Flames, you can actually untap with only 1 or 2 cards.
Yeah, given the fact that Togores has so many lands, that's the possibility here.
Exactly.
So the storm count is either 16 or 7, probably 7.
Yeah, 7 is incredibly high considering that this was the first ritual that was cast.
So let's have a look at the top 3 cards with one of those black manas. 1, 2, and 3 cards for Togores. What can he find here? Ponder amongst them. Puts them back. Really thinking about how he's going to navigate this. I mean, Tholance has got to be feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, once your opponent casts the ritual, you know things will get interesting.
Cabal Ritual. Storm count at 26 now.
It would be really really good for Togores if he was able to somehow flashback Cabal Therapy. Just somehow cast therapies over and over again, just until the Flusterstorms are depleted.
Past in Flames in the hand of Togores there. You can see it at the front of his hand there. And we're going to see Togores draw a card now with Sensei's Divining Top. What is it? What could it be? We didn't get a good look at when he was looking at those 3 cards. We'll find out shortly. See if Tholance has some kind of response here.
Most of his cards are extremely reactive, so I think he's contemplating the Surgical Extraction.
Okay.
Because that would shuffle his opponent's library.
So, draws a Cabal Therapy. Well, that's step 1 for Togores.
Yes. This game is now all about the therapies. There might be a later stage where it becomes about Pass in Flames and LED, but now this turn at least it's about what we see the therapies achieve.
So a Force of Will, pitching Force of Will.
Two more spells added to the storm count.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that storm count should be at 10 now.
it's still relevant. It's still relevant because of Flusterstorm.
Yeah.
Even if a Tendrils would be very lethal.
Because the Force and the Cabal take it up from 8 to 10 there. Cabal Ritual number 2, Cabal Therapy number 2.
Sure, the players will work it out.
Well, they've gone up to 10 right now.
Just confirm whether the Force of Will was counted.
Yeah, there we go. So it goes up to 11. And here is Flusterstorm number 1. All 11 copies of it, targeting Cabal Therapy there. So Flusterstorm is a simple spell pierce for instants and sorceries only, but then it has Storm, which makes it pretty good in situations like this. So we should have that Storm counter up to 12 now.
Yeah, it's a simple Force Spike.
Yeah, Force Spike on steroids, mate. So Storm count 12. Tholance not only with Flusterstorm in hand, but also a Snapcaster Mage to flashback one of those flashback one of those Flusterstorms.
Yeah, so he has two more Flusterstorms available, and Togores is running out of therapies.
Yeah, running out of things to do here.
Togores is now looking to cast Past in Flames.
Oh, and look at that. Away goes the Storm counter. Away goes the mana. So yeah, Togores is in on that Past in Flames plan. And if I were Tholance here, I would be very strongly considering a flashback of, a surgical extraction. I guess you can wait until the Past in Flames actually cast here.
Oh, you should definitely wait and see if and when you need it. You could, for example, in your opponent's draw step, exile all the therapies.
Okay.
Then, if your opponent top decked one,
it's Gonski.
I suppose he didn't shuffle, so he would top deck Sensei's Divining Top.
Yep.
Also, very important not to cast the Snapcaster Mage prematurely. You want to make sure that you can flash it in to attack for lethal or to threaten lethal, but that you don't have to.
Tholance draws and finds Sensei's Divining Top,
which is almost worth 3 cards in this spot.
Yeah, certainly Tholance has access to the best of 3 there for just 2 mana, and he casts this Sensei's Divining Top. Togores says that's fine.
What cards does Togores have in his graveyard that actually allow him to win?
There's Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and then a bunch of Brainstorms and Gataxian
blue cards. So the blue cards are scary as well.
Yeah.
But none of them find you a win condition and protect you from Flusterstorm. So if you surgical the therapies, you might have Togores in a position where he finds a win condition but cannot get the Flusterstorm out of your hand.
So Brainstorm, fetch land, and another top, I think, on top for Tholance there. He draws the Brainstorm. And he's going to cast it here? Okay. What's he looking for here, Simon?
I'm intrigued. I don't know.
So maybe looking to shuffle some of those cards away with the Arid Mesa.
But
he's
why
just
would
put
you
Flusterstorm in front of, as though he's going to shuffle away Flusterstorm.
He wants to put the Flusterstorm on top of his deck.
Oh, I see.
So that now
it's safe. Yeah, the top can draw it at instant speed.
The therapy cannot get it.
Yeah, that's smart.
But yeah, okay, he has only 2 cards left. Now I think. Now if you play around therapy this way, you certainly don't want to surgically extraction it, right?
No, almost certainly not here. I think that we may see something else exiled with the surgical extraction.
Either blue card draw or maybe some of the rituals, depending on what Togores is.
Togores does have 7 mana here. He hasn't drawn the Tropical Island, so he still can fetch with the Polluted Delta. And we're going to see things opened up with a Cabal Ritual.
So he did shuffle away the top.
Okay.
Apparently.
Tholance deep in thought here. And that's fine. So, Storm count 1, 5 mana. Lion's Eye Diamond, Tendrils of Agony. In hand for Togores here. So he configures those dice to let you know what's going on. Storm 1, black mana 5.
If Togores wins this game, he might have to do it through a Flusterstorm.
Yeah.
Which could be very exciting. But he might have the mana to do it.
This is the thing. If he can generate enough from the rituals in his graveyard, and here is Past in Flames now. So the storm count is 2. The other thing is, if this gets countered...
But how? How do you counter it?
No, well, with a Snapcaster, no, there's nothing that can counter it in the bin.
Tholance used up his forces.
Yeah.
He kept Flusterstorms as the way to keep a card like Tendrils, like the ultimate win condition in check, but doesn't really have a hard counter for effects like this.
No.
And there's a problem if you give Togores the option to generate all that mana with all the flashback rituals.
Yeah, then that could be in a position where he can pay 10 extra mana for his Tendrils of Agony.
Exactly. He pays 2. He gets a +3 from each Cabal ritual, but only adds 1 to the storm count.
Ooh, Surgical Extraction, however.
Yes, and this is what Tholance absolutely needed to disallow Togores from just overloading him mana wise.
So, oh no, the top is in hand now for Togores.
So he did have it.
He drew it. So, Cabal Ritual is exiled now by the Surgical Extraction. Tholance is going to go through and find the other copies of it and have a look in Togores' deck too to find the final copies. We get a sneak peek at exactly what's going on. Geez, you can see all of these cards that have been brought in.
Also
there are the Duresses.
Also the Reign of Filth.
Yeah, stayed in there.
Maybe less Infernal Tutors.
Maybe fewer Cabal Rituals. Haven't seen any others. You're joking, only 2 Cabal Rituals.
He knew they were getting surgical.
So he only brought 2 in. That's the way to do it. Well, he's not drawing any more. Tholance has another quick look to make sure of his estimation there, but wow, okay.
Still, you have to cut. You have to cut something.
Yeah, and it's still going to be good with the Past in Flames looking like it's going to resolve.
But Dark Ritual, I think in this case, Togores also took out some Dark Rituals because in a long game, the Cabal Ritual definitely has its value. This is exciting.
Yeah, this is coming right down to the wire here with Past in Flames now looking like it's going to resolve. Tholance can flash back that Surgical Extraction. He can also cast, of course, the Flusterstorm that's on top of his deck. He's considering whether he wants to do it. I mean, now is exactly the time.
Is there 2 Dark Rituals in the graveyard?
I can see at least 1. Cabal Therapy also up in the mix. Not doing a lot at this stage. I like the way he's played around and just emptied his hand. So 1 copy of Dark Ritual, 2 copies of Gataxian Probe. Looks like a Brainstorm there.
Yeah, but Rodrigo is down to 4.
Yeah.
So the Gataxian Probes are expensive. The blue mana for the other spells is expensive. The Cabal Therapy we know is not getting the job done. And mana is kind of what Togores needs, but he has 6 available as well.
Man, Togores here. I mean, Tholance has all the information. Actually, both of them do. They both have perfect information here.
I don't know why Togores...
Snapcaster on the Surgical Extraction, wanting to get on the front foot before these Past in Flames resolve here. I can't see what he's targeted. I think it was the Dark Ritual.
This makes the most sense.
Yeah, Dark Ritual was the target. Tholance very unhelpfully shuffling those cards off the top of the screen, but I'm getting a confirmation from my stalwart companion, Rashad Miller.
If you decide to surgical the Cabal Therapy, then surgical extraction on Dark Ritual is the logical next step.
Yeah.
You have decided to fight against the mana and not against the card selection,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that you're forcing your opponent to go off this turn.
So, 2 mana available for Togores in his pool, and 4 mana with his lands. He's down to 4. Everything in the graveyard has flashback, even Misty Rainforest.
I'm a little confused what happened to the storm count.
Storm count has sort of gone out the window somewhere along here. Well, I don't know if it is. Is it 5?
No, it's much more. It's or I think it's much more. Maybe not.
We've had one Cabal Ritual. We've had Snapcaster and 2 surgical extractions and the Past in Flames.
Okay, so 5 is correct.
5 is correct. Seems like more.
The two spells on the bottom don't. The 2 dice on the bottom don't.
Yeah, they're just here for the show, mate. Same as you and me. I'm the 6.
Same relevance to the match as well.
You're the 2.
So, Nicolas at least now knows that there was a Tendrils hiding in Togores' hand.
Yes, and Tholance in a position now to, I mean, yeah, as we say, he's hellbent. He's got a Flusterstorm on top that he can leverage should Togores somehow manage this. But right now, doesn't seem like a lot is going on. A Brainstorm from Togores here. He draws 3 cards. Has to put 2 back, of course. See what they're going to be. Cabal Therapy, one of them, I think.
Yes, because Nicolas is
hellbent,
sitting there with 0 cards.
Yeah, not so good. Not so good in this situation. And Togores shuffling them away as well. I mean, I like the fact that Tholance went after the mana of Togores there, exiling all of those rituals. And, you know, we could say the flashback on Past in Flames might get Togores somewhere, but he's got no fast mana left. Basically just a Rain of Filth in his library and some of those LEDs.
And this means that the Flusterstorm cannot be circumvented by just generating a ton of mana. Because if at some point...
Yeah, that's a great point.
This is the key. If you have maybe a Tendrils for 8, 9, or 10, the Flusterstorm will force you to pay extra mana. But if Togores has 5 floating, he just wins.
So Togores down to 1 here. Down to 1. He's finally found the trop. All 7 of these mana-producing lands are on the battlefield. And we'll see what's going to happen here with this Brainstorm. Ponder is number 1. Abrupt Decay number 2. And LED number 3. Lion's Eye Diamond, one of the ways that he can still generate mana here. It puts back the Cabal... the Tendrils of Agony on top here. Abrupt Decay on the top.
Very, very smart.
Yeah, to force Tholance into drawing the Flusterstorm.
Does he have enough mana though? 2 black floating. You can flashback therapy. You have to know that it's Flusterstorm.
Oh, look at this. Is it going to be enough?
And then you play double Lion's Eye Diamond.
Oh, there you go. That is masterful. Togores getting rid of all of this. LED, Lotus Petal. And offering the hand with the Tendrils of Agony on top. Togores, my goodness me, look at that. Pulling a victory out of thin air after huge amounts of disruption. Simon Gertzen, you and I sitting there looking at the 3 Flusterstorms available to Nicolas Tholance, but Rodrigo Togores cannot believe it.
That was a masterclass in Storm.
Oh, unbelievable stuff. He has done absolutely fantastic job here, getting all the way to the finals. You can see overcome with emotion. Look at that. He cannot believe it. On 1 life, finally managing to pull the victory out of thin air. A masterclass in Storm, as you said, Simon Gertzen. That is that for our final. What a huge match of Magic we've seen to close out this Grand Prix. Simon Gertzen, it's been a great pleasure to have you at my side throughout the entire event. But that is that for our final here at GP Prague. Thanks so much for joining us.